High-performance computing and AI is being used to positively transform society and mitigate climate change. KO Data's 100% renewably powered data centers support the mission-critical workloads of life sciences, biotech, and AI startups in Cambridge. Find out how we can reduce your digital carbon footprint at kodata.com/contact. KO Data, proud to sponsor the Cambridge Tech Podcast. Welcome to the Cambridge Tech Podcast, talking all things technology from the heart of the UK's tech capital. Here are your hosts, Faye Holland and James Parton.
Hi, I'm James.
And I'm Faye. So on today's podcast, we have Ben Woodington from Opto Biosystems, and they actually appeared on the 21 to watch list last year for the first time, and we'll understand why shortly. And they also appeared on Jamie Quested at Business Weekly's radar after their pre-seed raise, so I'm sure we'll find out about that too. So I'm delighted to welcome Ben Woodington to the podcast today. It's a shame there's no Elise with you today. What happened?
We are very busy, and she is particularly busy today because we're trying to juggle several international collaborations at the moment, which means we're up at 7 a.m. and then working till midnight. So unfortunately, she's got swept into that. But I'm very happy to be here, and I will try to cover her part, partially unsuccessfully.
No, that sounds perfect. But I do understand that you're used to talking to neuroscientists about everything that you do. So you may have to just come down a little level or two for me today, if that's all right by you. But let's start with introductions. Who are you, Ben?
So I'm Ben Woodington. I'm 50% of the founding team of Opto Biosystems, medical device engineer by training, chemist by training before that, but a long retired chemist. I completed my PhD in Cambridge in neuroengineering, and now the CEO of Opto Biosystems.
So Cambridge is famous for deep tech, and we really are about to take a journey on deep tech. Why don't you explain what the company does?
I will do my best. Opto Biosystems are developing a new generation of neurological interfaces. So that is very small implantable devices that can read electrical information from inside your body. Now, that may sound like science fiction to some people, perhaps some of your listeners, but actually these kind of technologies have been around for 60, 80 years, devices that we can stick into the body and record electrical signals. What Opto are doing is taking a new approach to that, making things that are very, very small, well tolerated in the body, and applying it to an area of medicine that we think has probably one of the highest clinical needs at the moment, and that is cancer.
What kind of use cases do you envisage for the device or devices?
Our first use case is brain cancer, more specifically a subtype of brain cancer called glioma. So glioma and gliomas, including glioblastoma, are particularly devastating diseases. The worst form of cancer, brain cancer, glioblastoma, will have a median survival of about 14 months. And importantly, that hasn't really changed for the last 25 years, maybe 30 years, depending on who you speak to. Despite all of the progress in drugs and biotech and the infrastructure as well, things still haven't changed. There's a real need for better understanding of that disease and better treatment of that disease, and it's going to require a bit of thinking outside of the box. We are also exploring other indications as follow-on products, including anything that involves your neural system. So we're looking at traumatic brain injury and epilepsy as well.
Okay, interesting.
So you said small. How small is small?
This is an interesting story. So we come from a academic environment originally, and we're surrounded by engineers, and engineers love to make things smaller and thinner and pack more in there and more efficient and more sensors and everything else. So when we originally came to the project and we were working on it with some of our engineers, we made things unrealistically small. We made things half a millimeter in diameter, which is a very cool thing to put in a paper. But you go and speak to the surgeons, and the engineer excitedly waves a thing in a surgeon's face and go, look, it's so small, you can't even see it. And the surgeon will turn around to you and say, that's great, but it's so small, I can't even see it.
I can't even pick it up, can't do anything with it.
I need to put this thing in a human being. And so the very first thing we really did on that journey of working with the surgeons is actually that kind of human factors part, right? Like how small makes sense that you actually reduce the trauma and the risk of the surgery whilst it's actually still usable for the surgeon. So we've changed the footprint a little bit. We're scaling up, we're scaling down. But even still, like we can make these electronics in the range of like millimeters, which is much smaller than possible today.
It's interesting, isn't it? So we talk about, in deep tech, neural networks, but this is like neural networks within the human body and putting technology in there. It's amazing stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's trying to understand the complexities of the nervous system and the brain, which a lot of people have been trying for a long time, and we're still not there, and we're still not going to be there for decades to come on all of the challenges that present themselves within neuroscience. Yeah,
and give yourself a little bit of, you are very new to this as well. So let's talk a little bit about you said in your introduction, some of your background. How did you specifically get into Opto, and how did that relationship with you and Elise as the co-founder start?
Elise and I met actually in our PhD group, again, here in Cambridge. So we were both completing our PhDs in bioelectronics under George Meliaris. We were coming at it from two very different angles. So Elise completed her PhD in cancer neuroscience and using bioelectronics as an approach to that. I came at it very much from a surgical angle. So I was working with neurosurgeons, again, here in Cambridge, on making devices that are much, much smaller to enable new spinal cord interfaces. So same kind of technologies, but getting them onto the spinal cord through very, very minimally invasive ports. So syringes, injections into the body. The cancer neuroscience angle really comes from Elise. Like Elise was working diligently and passionately on that project for years, and is, I think, quite frankly, furious that there isn't better ways to treat this disease. And that's what her whole PhD was looking at. Between her and I, we have a nice melding of skills, really, in the technical side of things. I come very much from the medical device fabrication, assembly, design part of the world, and she comes more from that biological side of the world, though she's an electrical engineer, so she's probably actually a better electrical engineer and a better biologist than I am. But I won't admit that to her if she was here.
Don't say that on the podcast. Tell everyone.
So we came together, we started speaking to people. We started speaking to, for all intents and purposes, our customer, which is the neurosurgeon, the clinician. We're designing these devices to treat humans, to treat people with diseases, but the surgeon is the one that decides which tools they need and use to go into people, right? So we started speaking to them. We've spoken to tens of them, maybe 30 opinions so far, detailed opinions we've had so far, to try and shape out exactly that gap in their understanding and their need right now.
And you've described the kind of, just to jump back slightly to the product, you've described the physical device and the size and, the parts of the body that you inject or apply it to. In terms of what's presented back to the surgeon and the post-op care, what kind of data or what kind of utility does the device provide the medical care on an ongoing basis? Yeah,
I mean, a very important question. And again, I think that ties back into that human factors type piece that we were talking about. Like, it's no good getting things into people and gathering gigabytes, terabytes of data if there's no action, right? There's no way for the surgeon, the clinician, the oncologist to actually interact with that data. So very early in the founding of the company, and I should stress, this company, we only closed our funding round 6 months ago, so we're early days. We hired a hardware engineering team, and very quickly, and alongside that, hiring a software and software insights team, right, to actually distill that data into things that are actionable, not streams and streams of neurological information, right? But biomarkers, actionable biomarkers that we can do things with. Mm-hmm. Exactly what that interface will look like with the clinician, we're not there yet. Okay. There are more things we need to do yet. But of course, for the next couple of years, that's what we'll work towards. Yeah.
Okay. So I as I suspected, there's as much of a software kind of endeavor as a hardware endeavor as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
And you've recently received some funding as well, I believe, for a program with the Medical Research Council. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So the MRC grant actually came in with an accelerator that we were on. So Elise and I were on an accelerator 2 years ago that was sponsored or run by Capital Enterprise and sponsored by some other partners. The ideas that Elise and I were sort of playing with there have changed quite considerably since then, but that's the beauty of an accelerator. You get to kick around ideas and try to figure out exactly what makes sense and what works. So that was a smallish program of about 6 months where we got to flesh out some ideas, met a ton of amazing people, and started coming towards what we actually wanted to build.
I mean, that's it, isn't it? It's meeting those people that helps companies to progress. You all learn from each other, so it's great to hear.
And I'm really interested to kind of talk about how the genesis of the idea and the company came about. What was that spark, and your initial vision and mission, and how that may or may not have changed over the preceding kind of 6 or so months. Well, how long has the actual business as an idea been going? You fundraised 6 months ago.
We fundraised 6 months ago, yeah. Pre-seed 6 months ago. So we actually founded the company last March a year ago, March 2022.
Just over a year, yeah.
But Elise and I were working on our PhD then, so we were still busy with that.
Yeah.
We actually closed the funding round in December. Yeah, it was a Christmas present for us.
So the spark of the idea, how did it come about?
It came about, I mean, you asked about the mission and the vision of the company. Like, the mission and the vision of the company has been from day one and continues to be developing technologies to treat some of the most difficult to treat neurological diseases in the world. We're leading with cancer, diseases that drug companies have tried to treat for decades and have, I don't want to say failed to, like, they've made some great progress, but there are limitations in these approaches, and we're coming at it from a new angle. That vision has remained. The technological approach, the data approach, the rollout approach, the geographical approach, these are all in flux all the time, of course. You have to work with the responses and the data that you're given.
Yeah.
You've said that there's lots of things in this area that haven't been improved for decades. See, I believe I've read somewhere that you've said bioelectronics is the future of medicine. So can you tell us a little bit more about that and why you think it is such a game changer?
Absolutely. I believe that wholeheartedly, that the bioelectronic medicine will change how we treat people. It will change medicine, and it will become a pillar of modern healthcare. It's one that people from within the space appreciate at the moment, but outside the space, I think when people talk about like bioelectronics, speak to a person on the street and they will give you like a bionic hand or arm, and that's cool, and that's sci-fi, and people like Star Wars. But the idea of bioelectronic medicine, of both recording and stimulating the nervous system, you can affect pretty much every organ in the body. And people are looking at diabetes and asthma and migraine, epilepsy. People are looking at all of these diseases. And rather than taking a pharmacological approach where you often have systemic issues, because that drug goes everywhere in your body, with an electrical approach, you can measure a very specific part of the body, an organ, and you can get so much information out of that. And there's some amazing people doing work on that. And you can deliver electrical current to those areas and actually specifically treat particular organs and target diseases. Now, why haven't we been doing that for 100 years? We've been using drugs for thousands of years. Like, there has been a technological revolution in the last 50 years, which I think we can all appreciate in terms of electronics miniaturization, compute processing power, energy efficiency. You look down at your smartphone and all of this amazing technology is packed into the smartphone. That wasn't possible 60 years ago, especially in implantable medical devices. I encourage your listeners to look up the original pacemakers, and it's a guy with a cable coming out of his chest and a trolley, like a literal trolley in front of him, carrying a bunch of electronics and batteries and everything else. The progress that's been made in the last few years is incredible, and the miniaturization is incredible, and the amount of sort of edge computing that can be done on these devices now is amazing. And that enables this future where people can actually have things put into their body and they don't have to carry around a trolley to treat their disease.
Yeah, well, a trolley or a whole load of drugs that may not be fit for purpose either. Obviously I know that that's all improving and, target drug therapy and everything else, but actually having something that can be more intuitive has got to be a better approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you are a startup looking to grow in Cambridge, the Bradfield Centre offers a range of flexible membership packages which put you in control of your office and home working mix. There's a vibrant, collaborative atmosphere, on-site cafe, plenty of green outside space, and regular member social events. We also offer a range of high-quality meeting spaces for hire, and for tech event organisers, our auditorium, lakeside pavilion, and atrium spaces are perfect to bring your communities together for in-person and hybrid events. For more information, visit bradfieldcentre.com or call 01223 919 600.
So you've obviously raised your first pre-seed. In terms of what the kind of the rest of this year looks like and moving ahead, what does the roadmap look like? How do you move from, what stage would you say you're at now? Kind of pilot prototype staging? How do you get to kind of commercial deployment of the technology?
Yeah, it's going to be a busy few years.
Yeah.
So you're right. We closed our pre-seed in December, which was excellent. Closed just shy of £2 million. We brought in some amazing VCs and some local Cambridge angels as well into that, which was great for us. Loved all of those investors and continue to love all of those investors that are involved. We have a busy year. We are now proving out the milestones that we said we could prove out. And this is a hardware play. This is a data play. This is a clinical play. There's a hell of a lot to optimize on, right? So the first is proving out the indication that we are intending to prove out with the technology that we patented last year and are actually building that into a clinically viable platform. Because as anyone knows, building hardware, it's one thing to get it working on the bench one time or in your garage one time. It's an entirely different ballgame to get something working 99% of the time, 100% of the time in every single person you deploy it in. So that's what we're working on this year, actually deploying that technology in the disease models that we're focused on and making sure that the thing works the way we intend it to work every single time. I think one of our most important milestones as well is locking down that team that we need. We are doing something very niche and very specialist, and we have been spending a lot of our time getting the right people to do that. And that is no small feat, actually. Bringing in people who have the right experience in software and in hardware and are willing to do it at a rate that we can afford as well is going to be a big achievement for us this year.
And in terms of manufacturing, have you got thoughts yet in terms of where that manufacturing might take place?
There are steps here, right? So the first is getting preclinical data, and we can manufacture devices locally for that preclinical manufacture. Then there's a first in human piece we can do. So that first patient, which will be a few years from now until we get that first human chronic long-term human data, that will be manufactured in a different facility, one that is accredited in a certain way. That means the regulators allow you to put this into a human being. We have explored a number of different manufacturing partners who can do that for us. Coincidentally, that was the last job I had before coming onto my PhD. So fortunately, I have a lot of relationships in that space.
Right.
And then there'll be the mass manufacture. Then there's now make 1,000 of these devices, 10,000 of these devices, and the entire platform, the software, everything else. And that has to be manufactured in an even tighter, restricted environment. Maybe you can work with those same partners. Maybe you have to work with slightly different partners. So certainly it's steps along the way.
And you touched on, obviously, part of the investment team were Cambridge Angels. What's your experience been of coming out the university and becoming entrepreneurs, starting a business? What's the support ecosystem been like for you?
Mixed.
Okay, interesting.
Cambridge has a phenomenal ecosystem, right? Everybody knows this. Cambridge is disproportionately represented on the world stage. The biotech we have here, the tech, the computing industry that we have in Cambridge, the tiny population that we have is like nothing else in the world. It's also quite a small place. So you learn to know everybody very, very quickly. So we've had to reach outside the ecosystem as well, right? You can't do everything in Cambridge. The manufacturing partners we need, the investors we need for that long haul. No one will tell you that manufacturing a new biotechnology program, product, or a medical device product is cheap, and you need investors that can follow you the whole way, right? Backing you with the kind of capital that is difficult to find just in one town of 120, 140,000 people, however many we are now.
Yeah.
So it's been an incredibly supportive environment, and the mentorship that we've got from people who, haven't put money in, have no skin in the game, but just want to see us through and meet up for coffees and meet up for a beer and just chat. And you're sat across the table from someone who's founded a multi-billion pound dollar company now in the medical device space. That's, I think, something that's actually quite hard to find in other places in the world.
And you mentioned like the challenge around attracting the right people. Are you having to look outside the city? How are you building the team? Is everyone co-located in Cambridge, or are you working with remote staff? Or
so when I started this company, Elise, my co-founder, and I agreed that we were going to have 0 remote workers. It's hardware. We need people around a board. We need ideas flowing, all creative juices in the room. And we wanted that for us. We've made one person that we've allowed. But that is because they were a complete game changer for us. They're coming from the States. It's not been officially announced yet, but the value they brought to the group, the team, and the experience they had, we made one exception. Everyone else is co-located in Cambridge at the moment.
right.
Finding that talent's not been, easy. Again, the talent you're looking for is niche.
Yeah.
You're looking for the right people, the right culture fit, as well as the right technical fit. And it's taken a lot of our time in the last few months.
And you're doing that within the team, or are you using recruiters, or how?
No, we're doing it within the team.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Elise and I hiring and then bringing in the rest of the technical team to grill these people and asking challenging questions to those people to make sure that they've got not just the right technical skills, but the right the vision, the big thinking, which you need as well.
We talk to a lot of people on this podcast, and we know a lot of people as well. Yeah, we do.
That's kind of the point of it.
No, I know. There's a point to what I'm saying. Will you stop heckling my questions, please? Honestly, Ben, have a word with him. You've done so much in 15 months. I'm kind of sitting here going, how are you doing all of that? As well as you're both finishing your PhDs as well. Do you know, it's a phenomenal amount of work. How are you doing it? What are your highs? Are there any lows as well?
Yeah. How are we doing it? We can only do it because we're doing it together. I'm sat here talking to you now, but Elise is the powerhouse behind this company.
And can I just interject there? You actually keep looking at the chair next to you.
The empty chair. Elise, if you're listening.
You are virtually here, okay?
She's the powerhouse of this company. She is busy working on this company. And there's no way that I don't think either one of us could do this on our own. No way. And that's how we managed to get so much done. So we completed our PhDs last year. So though we were raising during our PhDs, we're now, the company has been full-time, our full-time occupation for 6 months. And I think that's another important part of it, right? We both agreed that as soon as the funding was closed, the company was everything right now. We were going to focus it on everything, drop all our side projects. And, we're curious engineers. We had 100 different side projects that we were working on, and just finish them off and focus on this because it's going to take everything for the next however many years.
Yeah. And you recently won the 2022 Wolfson Enterprise competition, right?
We did, yeah.
How important are those kinds of competitions and prizes to you?
I think it's always a difficult balance. No one wants to sign up to 100 award competitions just because of the dopamine boost that it gives you if you win one. And they do give you a dopamine boost when you win one, and that's a nice feeling. And we don't want it to distract from our main focus, which is getting products into people and improving people's lives. These are, otherwise can become, vanity projects, which neither one of us want.
Yeah.
That said, the validation you can get from those startup competitions, especially when you look at the judges on them, and they're seriously impressive individuals who have built companies or investors or whomever else, that adds validation. It boosts your public outreach, which is huge as well. And even something like the Wolfson competition, the amount of inflow we get after something like that goes on, LinkedIn and Twitter, saves us a lot of time of cold calling, investors and partners and clinicians and everything else. It all starts coming in to us, which has huge benefits, of course.
And it must help with recruitment and things like that. When people start to see you winning awards, it's going to attract people, right?
They do, yeah, absolutely. It attracts people. It gets people excited by the mission and by the things that you're trying to do. And it's so nice when you meet someone for, let's say, an interview, and like they're already excited. You haven't even tried to sell what you're building yet, and they're already like so excited about what you're doing. And those things, of course, help with that. They absolutely do.
So what's next? What's your, you said it's a few years before it will come to fruition. What do you see happening in the next 12 months?
In the next 12 months, we will have completely filled out the team that we've got here in the UK. So for full clarity, we've just made another 2 offers. We've got 1 more offer to make this year for a person. And then that's it. We're freezing the team at that level for the next year. We have a bunch of clinical partnerships that are ongoing at the moment, preclinical partnerships across the world, actually. And we'll be expecting results from those. So we're very excited about that, both in some results that we can share and fly around. We have some additional projects that we've not publicly disclosed yet, and I'm very excited to announce those as well when it comes to it. We will be looking towards our next raise because they come around very fast.
Well, do let us know when you've got those announcements, and we'll help to share those messages for you too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's been such a fascinating conversation. As I said at the top, Cambridge has that reputation for deep tech, and I mean, just it's an area I think that's so interesting, and as you say, has so much potential impact on completely changing medicine in the future. So we'd love to track the progress of you guys, and wish you nothing but the best.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to speak to you both, and I'm looking forward to sharing those updates with you as well.
Brilliant. Thank you.
So, Faye, how's your week been this week?
I think it's been all right, but I'm not rightly sure because I've been sat with you and Carl, I think, for most of the week.
I'm not rightly sure.
Yeah. Oh, God. So can I just say, I literally get abused on this podcast all the time. I'm going to say it's like nice abuse, but I'm not sure. They actually picked on me last week because I said podcast rather than podcast.
We love you.
Anyway, my point is, obviously the day job has happened, but we've recorded 6 podcasts this week, so it really has been pretty full on.
Yeah.
What about you?
I've had a good week, yeah. So, on top of all the recordings we've been doing, I was helping with friends of the show, GrowthWorks. They brought a delegation of Indian startups to the Bradfield and around Cambridge this week. So they were here on Monday. And then yesterday, I was up in Wolverhampton, sunny Wolverhampton, to see Susie and the Banshees. Without the Banshees, just Susie.
It's nice to know one of us has a life.
Yeah.
So also this week, I'm about to judge the KPMG Emerging Giants 2023 Tech Innovators UK competition, which is great because it's across the eastern region. 4 of those companies are actually from Cambridge: Acker Health Tech, Biofidelity, Mimicrete and Renewal. So I'm sure we'll be able to give an update on that at some point too.
Yeah, you can tell us next week how that went. This week saw a new entrant to Cambridge. New Zealand high-tech company Racon is moving into Camborne Science Park, and they are one of the world's largest manufacturers of frequency control products and timing solutions.
And then a week after opening a facility in Taiwan, Cambridge GaN Devices, we talked about them last week, they've signed a new distribution deal with a US-based world leader called DigiKey. And under that agreement, DigiKey are going to hold substantial stocks of CGD's easy-to-use, rugged and highly efficient iScan HEMTs and related products.
Cambridge-based cybersecurity education firm CW Labs, which stands for Cyber Warfare Labs, has closed a significant seed funding deal with UK-based angel investors and appointed Sumit Siddharth as a new director.
And I think they're the highlights of the news this week as well.
We hope you enjoyed the podcast. Joining us next time is Dr. Herman Hauser, one not to be missed.
Today's show was produced by Carl Homer of Cambridge TV and supported by our media partner, Business Weekly. The Cambridge Tech Podcast is available on all major podcast platforms and on cambridgetechpodcast.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please give it a 5-star review. It will really help others discover the show.